Regardless of AOC's caterwauling, will anybody be held accountable for a scandal of this magnitude? Let's ask tonight's Man Panel. We've got executive editor at the upcoming Common Sense magazine. I love Common Sense. And I heart Chris Bedford. We've also got Fox News senior political analyst, always with a grin and a great conversation. Juan Williams is back. And 2020 Libertarian vice presidential candidate. 2024 is next year, as you know. He is the chair of youarethepower.net. Spike Cohen and his pet eagle. They are back to rock your universe. Gentlemen, thank you all very much. I will start with you.
Thank you.
So, Chris, I think they should have focused all of their time on James Baker. And, we did see a little bit of questioning as to how they gleaned from 51 intelligence officials that this was Russian disinformation.
I think they should have as well. There's essentially no evidence that this was Russian disinformation. More than that, there was never, ever any evidence of this. This was something where big tech broke through all of the systems they'd created previously to try and cover their butts. And they said, we're just going to call this a lie ourselves. We're going to censor it. We're going to wait for the facts to catch up with us. And the government and former intelligence agencies and the FBI and everyone else basically whispered to them, sure, we're going to have that information to prove it any moment now. And it never, ever came. And people whether it's Politico or the Washington Post, are trying to just cover their butts right now. First, they were saying it didn't happen. And then once they admitted it happened, they say it didn't matter. It's a big boogeyman. But at the end of the day, to your earlier question, is anyone actually going to be held accountable for this? I find that extremely unlikely. Republicans banging the gavel and yelling about censorship makes for good TV, but they're not actually going after big tech in really any meaningful way.
No, and Baker was very careful not to perjure himself. They all were saying things like, I can't recall. I don't really remember. I mean, I might have talked to some of those people at some point in my life, but I just don't remember when. But it should be concerning to people on every slice of the political spectrum that there are government agencies working with big tech to alter information that voters consume, Juan. I mean, you are the kind of journalist I wish we had more of nowadays, because you have in the past spoken truth to power, and it's sad to see some of these Democrats dismissing what could be very problematic for the right and the left.
Well, I think, the problem with Twitter is I think they make all kinds of mistakes. I mean, even ongoing mistakes. We've been just hearing reporting about how pedophilia is still all over Twitter, even though Elon Musk is there and, they have no safeguards up. But I just wanted to say to you that today at the hearing, all of the officials said this was a Twitter mistake, that it's on Twitter. It wasn't that the government interfered or told them what to do. Now, you said, well, maybe the government was whispering or insinuated, and Twitter said, well, they knew that the Russians had interfered at some point during the 2016 campaign, and so they were on guard. But there was never any evidence presented today to say, oh, yeah, the government really twisted Twitter in a bundle, and that's why this happened. To the contrary, everybody said, it's a private company, and a private company's officials made bad judgment.
They certainly did, and they made bad judgments after talking with a number of government officials, including from the FBI, the CIA, DHS, and the NSA. So, Spike, don't you have more of an issue with those government officials? The Twitter executives have been relieved of duty. It's the people who work in government who still have power and access, arguably, to other tech companies who have just as much reach and influence.
Exactly, and that's the problem. We can leave it once again to congressional Republicans to get this close to the real problem and then get distracted by a shiny object at the last minute. And that's exactly what happened here. We have a situation where we have proof, ample amounts of proof from multiple Twitter files drops from direct sources showing that Twitter and no doubt other agencies or other big tech companies were working under the direct direction of the FBI and the Pentagon and the CDC, the FDA, and probably the CIA and multiple other government agencies. And so the government, the congressional Republicans, bring in Twitter to go after them on one issue that has to deal with one politician's son, instead of having them come in and answer to all of these different examples of government directing them. And then the congressional Democrats are able to sit there and say, well, half of this happened under the Trump administration, and really, why are you just going after this one person? And frankly, frankly, they're right. This isn't about Joe Biden or Hunter Biden or this one story. It's about the fact that you had the government directing Twitter and no doubt many other big tech every other social media platform and big tech platform out there to do their bidding and to suppress content, not just here, but around the world. That's the real problem. And instead of trying to go after a short-term political scoring point or talking point, they need to be hauling in the agencies that did that and have some serious conversations at the legislative level at either defunding or outright abolishing a lot of these agencies, or at least forcing them no longer to do this type of thing.
And hold them accountable for withholding information from rational Americans who are capable of making up their own minds when faced with issues that may not have a pat right answer. All right, we're going to have much more with the man panel shortly because they're very manly.